The air in the royal city of Susa was thick with an unspoken dread. Scroll after scroll, sealed with the king's signet ring, was being unfurled in the marketplaces. Each decree carried the same chilling message. On a specific day, all the Jewish people throughout the vast Persian Empire, young and old, women and children, were to be utterly destroyed, annihilated, their possessions plundered. Outside the palace gates, amidst the horrified murmurs, sat Mordecai, a man of profound grief. He tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and wailed loudly, a testament to the immense sorrow that had fallen upon his people. His adoptive daughter, Esther, the young queen, knew nothing of this terrible decree from within the opulent isolation of the palace. When her eunuchs reported Mordecai's distress, she sent him clothes, urging him to cease his public lament. But Mordecai refused, instead sending a message back to her, a message that would shatter her serene existence and propel her towards a destiny she could never have imagined. The message was clear, stark, and terrifying. Her people were doomed, and she, the queen, was their last hope. Esther was horrified. She sent a messenger back to Mordecai, explaining the perilous protocol of the Persian court. No one, not even the queen, could approach the king unsummoned. To do so meant certain death, unless the king graciously extended his golden scepter, a rare gesture of favor. She hadn't been summoned to the king's presence in 30 days. Her very access to him felt precarious. Mordecai's reply resonated with a profound spiritual truth, words that have echoed through centuries, inspiring countless acts of courage. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Pause for a moment and consider those words, for such a time as this. They weren't just a challenge, they were an invitation to purpose, a divine whisper suggesting that her seemingly ordinary life, her quiet elevation to queen, was not by chance. It was for this specific moment. Esther received Mordecai's words. The weight of an entire nation's survival fell upon her slender shoulders. Her fear was palpable, real, and utterly human. Yet something within her shifted. Faith, courage, and a deep love for her people began to overshadow her apprehension. She sent back her resolute answer. Go, gather together all the Jews who are in Susa, and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is over, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. This was no casual declaration. If I perish, I perish, was a surrender, an ultimate act of trust, stepping into the unknown with faith as her only guide. After 3 days of solemn fasting, Esther, dressed in her royal robes, walked towards the inner court of the king's palace. Every step was a testament to her courage. Her heart must have pounded with each beat. As she entered the inner court, King Ahasuerus was seated on his royal throne. His gaze fell upon her, and in that agonizing moment of silence, the fate of Esther, and indeed an entire people, hung precariously in the balance. Then, with an act of grace that felt like a lifeline thrown from heaven itself, the king extended his golden scepter toward her. Esther approached and touched the tip of the scepter, a silent acknowledgement of his favor. "What is it, Queen Esther?" he asked. "What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom it will be given you." Instead of immediately revealing the terrifying plot, Esther, with remarkable wisdom and composure, invited the king and his powerful vizier, Haman, to a private banquet. Her strategy was brilliant. She understood the power of timing, of building rapport, of creating the right environment for such a momentous revelation. At the first banquet, the king again pressed her for her request. Again, Esther deferred, inviting them to a second banquet the following day. This strategic delay inadvertently set in motion a series of events that would unravel Haman's meticulously crafted evil. That very night, the king, unable to sleep, ordered the royal chronicles to be read to him. In a twist of divine providence, the reader came upon the account of how Mordecai had once uncovered a plot against the king's life. The king asked, "What honor or distinction has been bestowed on Mordecai for this?" The answer was none. Just then Haman arrived, arrogant and brimming with pride, intending to ask the king's permission to hang Mordecai on gallows he had specifically built. The king, unaware of Haman's true intentions, asked him, "What should be done for the man the king delights to honor?" Haman, in his inflated ego, assumed the king meant him. He grandly suggested a public procession, royal robes, a crown, and being led through the city on the king's own horse. The king, to Haman's utter dismay, commanded, "Go at once, do for Mordecai, the Jew, all that you have recommended." Haman, utterly humiliated, was forced to lead his mortal enemy in a parade of honor. The stage was set for the second banquet. The tension in the room must have been palpable. The king again asked Esther for her request. With the king and Haman seated before her, Esther finally, bravely spoke. Her voice, though perhaps trembling, carried the weight of a nation. "If I have found favor with you, your majesty, and if it pleases you, grant me my life. This is my petition. And spare my people. This is my request. For we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated." The king was astounded. Who is he? Where is the man who has dared to do such a thing? Esther pointed directly at Haman, her voice gaining strength. "The adversary and enemy is this vile Haman." Haman was paralyzed with terror. The king, in a fit of rage, left the room. When he returned, he found Haman pleading desperately with Esther, having fallen upon her couch. Misinterpreting the scene, the king declared, "Will he even molest the queen while I am in the house?" At these words, Haman's face was covered, a sign of his impending doom. The very gallows Haman had prepared for Mordecai were used for him instead. And so, through the extraordinary courage and unwavering faith of one woman, a nation was saved. Esther, a young woman who rose from obscurity, an orphan in a foreign land, used her unique position not for personal gain, but for the good of her people. She dared to speak when silence meant destruction. She risked everything, choosing faith over fear. The story of Queen Esther reminds us that God can use anyone, regardless of their background, their perceived power, or their past. He often calls the least expected, the seemingly unprepared, to accomplish his great purposes. All that is required is courage to step out, even when fear is present, and trust in his divine timing and guidance. When we act with courage and place our trust in him, he can, and often does, use us in ways far beyond our imagination, to impact the world in profound and lasting ways, for such a time as this. What moment in Esther's story resonated most deeply with you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story encouraged you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories of faith and courage.